So, hello everybody. Welcome to Wise Women Weekdays with me, Karen Dodd. I haven't done one of these for ages, so it's really nice to be back, and it's really nice to be talking to two lovely friends of mine. Hello, ladies. I have Tosh and Ali here. How are you doing?
Hello.
We're good,
Nice,
thank you.
nice to see you. Really good
Jolly
to see you.
good. Just so you know, girls, when you talk, I think I've got it set up. The camera goes on to you, and when I talk, it goes on to me. And you're together, so which is nice, isn't it? So that yeah, nice and joint. So we're going to talk about. Well, you've set up a company recently, haven't you? Set up. Is it a company? Is it an organization? What would you describe it as?
Private association,
Private association called
Delphi Law. Here we
Dot
go.
Live. Delphi Law. They're
Delphi Law
laughing.
dot life. Yes,
Life,
that's
not
our
live.
website.
Yes. And tell us a little bit about it. What is it all about? What are you doing here? Because you're on a mission, aren't you, ladies?
On a bit of a
We're on a
mission.
bit of a mission, yes. Yeah. Okay. So I go, well, so, over the last 5 years, 6 years, but for a lot longer for both of us, but we'd say that it's come to the fore. Been working with quite a few trust consultants and people working within the law, LAW, and learning a lot about the law itself, not becoming solicitors or anything like that, more about trusts, more about the word trust and what it means to everybody and its history and how useful it can be in the world that we're embarking in at this moment in time, for not just a protection of your assets, but actually learning about who you truly are, your conscious self. And both Tosh and I are, I think we'd have to call it spiritually minded. We have a connection to the creator and we enjoy our spiritual journey and realize that's really important. But actually with the law, LAW or LORE, depending what you want to use, that spiritual comes in such a big way. And it's not just about going to a solicitor and having a will done and having powers of attorney. There are lots of other ways of doing it that can be protecting and can help at this moment in time and actually take us back to who we truly are.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think, and we'll maybe talk a little bit more about our experience anyway, but I think Ali and I are not only coming from a spiritual point of view, but also from a life experience point of view as well. And we talk about trusts. And actually, we live in a society where our trust in ourselves is eroded. It's subversively chipped away in so many different ways. Even the most kind of like I've got a couple of examples where I've just kind of had that light bulb moment and gone, wow, I'm being asked to question my judgment, my decisions that I've made about, buying a dishwasher, for example, and that whole sort of follow-on call about, oh, do you want to buy insurance because it might break down? And I'm like, wow, in that moment, you just asked me to question everything, the decision, the research, everything, the money I've given for a good piece of
Product.
kit,
Mm,
and
mm.
actually I was like, no, I don't. I'm going to trust this machine is going to work. And that was back in 2012. And I had such an incredible moment where I was like, wow. And always been one of those people to push back and question anyway. I was like, I'm just going to see how this works in life always. So the trust is really about, as Ali has said, trusting yourself and knowing who you are and actually and trusts are about all of that on paper.
And
That is,
I've got to ask, does the machine still work? Did you get the insurance?
you know what? I handed it over with a house and it was 10 years old, never broke down. And every morning, I was so grateful for it. I was just like, you're in our house to make our life easier. And I don't have to have arguments with my children about who's going to wash up. And
But it's a hugely valid point you've made there because we are living in this very corporate or commercial, world of having things. And when you do buy something, there's always that question: do you want to? Now you can just go and get money out, I think, from the bank or buy a packet of sweets from the shop, and do you want to add to the charity 25p to the charity and all this stuff? that they just keep adding on. Do you want insurance? Do you want this? Do you want that? And I said, no, I just want a packet of sweets, or I just want a dishwasher. And so it's it's all very, very money orientated, isn't it? And those people that do have money and assets, what we're talking about here is to protect them and not kind of give them away. Well, give them away through what, inheritance, through capital gains, through the government or other people taking them. What are we talking about when we're setting up a trust?
Yeah, well, I think, your first step to everything in this particular world that we're in is that you have to know what your jurisdiction is. People talk about jurisdiction, and it's really important. You've either got one ruler, which is directly to source, or you sit in the legal jurisdiction, which you sit by statutes and acts. And if you look at the history, and a lot of the work that we do is education. So it's really important to understand how we got here, why we got here, why the system is the system. Because it's not just one person or one group of people or one family or 13 families, as it may deem to be. It's everything together over at least 2,000, 3,000 years, but we're sure maybe even longer. But if you know a little bit about the history, then for a trust, it goes back to those ages where we were on crusades. It's old. And in Britain, especially, trusts were the places that you gave your wealth, entrusted it in people to look after it while you went to war. And if you came back, you got it back again. And if you didn't come back, your family and your all your assets would be handed down within that. And trusts have jurisdictions. They can be in the statutory, but they can also be in the private. And it's learning from our perspective about the private. Each person can create their own trusts, but they're kept quiet
Yeah,
because they're so powerful.
yeah.
They're not in the magistrate's court, or they're not in the legal department, or they're not with a solicitor, and managed that way. They are, they are documents, but they are the energy, the intention of all your sweat equity that you've ever done to be
Um,
left to your children, your children's children. And if we go back to its original source of the Bible, which is a trust, for me, God is grantor over
mm.
dominion. So he is the grantor of the trust. He, she, it, whatever you want to see it as. Trustees are the people that are the stewards of the land. And the beneficiaries are us too, but also our children and our children's children. And that is in Genesis as a statement. That is what we're here to do from a much bigger picture. And so we take that and we put it to what is going on a daily basis for us to actually support, help, and protect our families.
And when you mentioned going back like centuries, trusting, and when people went to war, I was up at gosh, this historical house the other week, Broughton Sanctuary, and they've got a well, and we went down. It's a massive, massive, more than a stately home. It's absolutely stunning, beautiful in Yorkshire. And we went downstairs. It's upstairs, downstairs kind of thing, Patent Manor. No, what's that TV thingy
Taking
place?
place.
Peyton Place.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. So we were downstairs, and everybody's equal here. There was no, hierarchy here. So the guy that owns it is absolutely lovely, and he said, "Oh, come down, and we'll go down and see where all the cooking has taken place." And down in the kitchens there was this well, and they said they had actually taken all the water of the well because in days before, when the king was at war, he would distribute gold to all his followers of wealth, people, that were lords and ladies and what have you. And quite often the treasure was held in the well, so nobody can get at it. And they went digging, they couldn't find it. But it's just agreeing with what you've said. That's where the trust is when you've got the followers. So this word trust is really important. And I think like many things that have evolved over the years, it's changed, isn't it? Because now people say, oh, I'm just going to set up a trust, and they're not giving thought about what they're doing. If they're going to a solicitor or a bank or whoever, a trust person, they don't really always know what they're doing. But the work that you're doing is as you say, it's very, well, it's spiritual, and you're mentioning the Bible, so it's biblical as well, but it is very deep because you've got to understand exactly what you're doing. And I'm not saying there's risks with it, but you have to partake. You can't just hand it all over and get somebody to do with it. You have to understand what you're doing on an internal level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think completely. And I think what's really important is that although we've mentioned the Bible and spiritual, it's not religious. This work is not religious.
No.
It really just comes from
Well,
a
all law comes
fundamental.
from the Bible. So if you think of our magistrates, you go and swear on the Bible to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, my lord.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
So,
absolutely.
but you don't do that anymore. But that was
Yeah.
like that for a very long period of time.
You don't
So,
do it anymore. Do you not do it
no,
anymore? What do they do
not in
instead
most
then?
courts now.
What, because we're not a Christian country anymore, according to our
Who
Who
knows?
Messiah, our King.
knows?
Yeah, who
Yeah,
knows?
but
Oh,
you still, that is the basis of the of Rome when Rome first started law, LAW, land, air, and water,
mm.
and that is the basis that law is under, the legal system is under. So we use that as an example of the legal system. And we can see now that we're talking about maybe having a different law in the United Kingdom under Islam, so
Mm.
Sharia law, which is another jurisdiction, which is a different, but another book, and using the Quran as their form of law, and where their laws came from. So it's very interesting how the jurisdiction is so important to what we actually know. And we're never taught any of that side at
Mm.
school or anything. And that's an important part of what we do is to just understand or inner stand, because it's an inner job, and about the language, the changes that have happened, how they've happened, when there's been what in society has changed to influence things, what acts and statutes have come in, the Magna Carta, all of those things. It brings in all of that so that we can start to really dig down a bit more into
Yeah.
trust. Because I actually think when we're talking about trust, well, we've got to the stage where we don't trust ourselves anymore. We don't trust ourselves
Well, it
to
goes
make
back to
our
the
own,
washing
yeah, the
machine.
washing machine, yeah,
No, dishwasher. Sorry,
dishwasher,
yeah.
yeah, as you rightly said
Mm,
earlier, and how important that is. Do we
mm,
trust our health? Do we trust how we feel? Do we trust what we see? Do we trust how we spend our
mm.
money? And so, yeah, again, back on that trust. So that's such an important part of our education side is to help people remember that they've
Remember
got
who
it
we are.
within them. Yeah, what they've got within them.
Jurisdiction, actually, I think that's a very valid point to go over again, especially because you brought up the Sharia law thing, which doesn't sit well with me coming from a Christian, apparently a Christian country. But I understand that there's a lot of Sharia court cases or courts or yeah, Sharia courts in the UK now. Do you know, you might not have the answer to this, but let's just say, they're using those people, the Muslims are using the Sharia court, and whatever penalty is dished out. Is that enough? Or if that's offended somebody in like the English constitution, in our law, the British law, would would they then have to go and to a court and be judged under our jurisdiction? Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why it's all been
Well,
set
that's why
up.
it's, yeah, we can't answer that,
Yeah.
but would say that, there is the answer in the whole thing. We need to go back to our original, and I think
And
Rupert Lowe talked about being an Anglo-Saxon. That's where it came from. Ethelstan was, and we're going back to the 400s, AD. He made a sovereign country. Britain was a sovereign country,
Yeah.
and it's been sovereign ever since in terms of what that understanding has been. How it's been changed has it been influenced by so many things, and how we see the system is not one individual who's changed it. It's a train. We'll use Tosh's
Oh
lovely.
yes, the
It's
train.
a runaway train. At the moment, it's a runaway train. We're feeding it coal, we're feeding it wood, and it's going faster and faster and faster down the tracks. And the land it's going through, we're not jumping, we're not on it anymore. And so we're heading towards, either a collision with something coming the other way or something out into the abyss that we don't know anything about. So, to get our feet back on the land, to be able to jump off the train and breathing space and to enjoy our life, we need to maybe take some steps back and remember.
I think
So
the
so
seagull
true.
was giving you a little bit of a,
Who is the
yeah,
seagull?
the seagull was going, yes.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
the seagull's on board. He's a
yeah,
maritime creature, and he's in the sea, which is another kind of jurisdiction. Because what we're talking about
Okay.
also, I think people that are watching this, if there are people that are interested in learning more, is at the moment, I think most of us are under maritime law. We're not under this LAW, like you said, land, air, and water, whereas you're referring to LORE, the old fashioned law. And that's kind of where you're taking us back to, isn't it, with the work that you're doing, getting us out of this maritime law where most of us don't know what the hell's going on. But you're re-educating us and making it a nicer place for us all to be, hopefully.
yeah. I mean, I think that would be where we
A
would say,
fair one.
but we want everybody to do it to remember, because it is a remembrance
Yes.
more than it is a teaching. We're not standing there teaching people. We're just remembering what that felt like, what that was about.
So how
And
how
and
how
yeah.
would you get them? So let's say, because I know you do workshops and things, yeah. How would you, if Joe Bloggs came off the street and walked into your workshop and he was clueless, but he had a nice house and he wanted to protect it. What would you do to start with him? Because he could go to his local solicitors or somebody that has been recommended for him to go to. What would be different, what to coming to you as opposed to going to somebody else?
So go on.
Go on, go for it.
Go on. Okay. So what would be different? So coming to us, we definitely wouldn't be in the jurisdiction of the statutory. So a solicitor and a lawyer would look at statutory processes. So he would put together a trust with you, maybe, and register you into the statutory world. For us, we can put trusts together for people, and it would never be registered. It's a private trust. It
It's a
belongs
private natural trust
trust.
because we
Yeah,
also have private trusts in the statutory as well. So I think we need to be really clear, don't we, on the natural trust.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so they can do that with us, but actually, the first thing they need to do is correct their status. That means, and we're not going to go deeply into it on this particular, for those people that watching that know what that means, correcting the record, correcting the mistake, status correction, straw man, there's another, our legal entity, on our legal name, our
Legal
corporation
fiction.
name, our fiction name, that you would correct that first and come back to being a living woman or man. And then from there, start to put things in trust that would be protected. So therefore, you wouldn't be doing probate anymore. So it would mean that you actually pass down your assets without having to do probate. And therefore, you could say no taxes, no inheritance tax doesn't fit into that jurisdiction. This is private. And you there is a savings, of course, in there, but that's also about the children, and it's about legacy. So it's about being able to keep that house, because most houses can will not be able to be kept by the kids because our house values have gone up so high. By the time, we pass away, children won't be able to afford to stay in that
Well, they
house.
can't pay the inheritance tax, can they?
No,
40% for a start.
and
So
farmers are a very
and
good
farmers, yeah.
example for that.
Mm.
They've got all of theirs is the same with their fields. So once you've got a private natural trust, you're not in that jurisdiction. You're in jurisdiction of equity and in jurisdiction of the chancery. It's a different. Equity is was the original law, or where there is remedy.
Mm.
And today I'll just give you a good example with that. Just happened to be in the bank over a little issue that was being worked out. But actually, something had already been struck off. That's punishment. That's in the statutory system. It's law. Here are the rules. You did this wrong. We're striking you off. You don't
What
have a
can,
bank account anymore. In equity,
yeah.
equity would say, oh dear, what did you do wrong? And you went, oh, well, I put too much, I tried to transfer too much money and it locked me out of my app. Okay, so let's have a look. What did you do? Were you sending it to anybody evil or nasty or anything like that? No, no, generally to my children or whatever. Okay, we will then reopen your bank account. But actually, the bank chose to freeze it completely because it couldn't do anything else because AI had already done the whole set of
The
rules and the
algorithms.
algorithm had put it all in place, and there was nobody who could press a button to actually switch it back to where it was before. That is law, LAW, punishment. Trusts and private law is inequity. It's about remedy. It's a finding remedy for solutions so that when things happen, you look for remedy. So instead of, arguing with your neighbour, find a solution, find that equity.
But that is where the world is designed to keep people arguing, to be divisive, to be,
Punished.
about confrontation. It's about punishment. But actually, it goes behind that because we've created a life which is so fast that people and so immediate with social media and everything else. So the whole back thing of it is that this has been going on for years. People are exhausted. They don't know how to do it. They haven't got time. This has got to be done. That's got to be time. People are actually mentally exhausted. And, many years ago, I was doing my mindfulness teacher training. And, back in the day when equity was a thing, for example, to bring it back to this, that would be how much we used our minds because we were grounded, we would talk, we would communicate. It would be, about finding remedy. And now, like we live in our heads, so people just don't have that time. They don't have that energy. They don't have that inclination. We've almost lost the ability to be in community, which is also something that is really, really important to us. And being in community is learning how to talk to each other. It's learning how to be responsive rather than reactive. It's like relearning. And I remember, mention the word remembrance. It's about remembering and actually trusting that we can do this, but with anything, I think there's a really lovely quote by Margaret Mead that says, something about changing the world. And indeed, only a small people have ever, it begins with a small group of people that start to change the world. And I think if all of us could kind of make a decision, actually, today, I'm going to intend to listen to people more, be more responsive, learn to meditate, because meditation is a great way of actually being able to be in equity and finding remedy, because you have that split-second buffer zone, which gives you that choice to be able to go, actually, do you know what? This is a better way of doing it. I'm kind of conscious I've got the sun coming
No,
around.
I know it's yes,
I'm
yes.
being blinded a bit, but so it's we can give you all the information and we can give you the historical, we can give you those jaw-dropping facts and moments and really they are there. But actually as well, we can also, we're here to educate and help people get back into their body. So it comes back to knowing thyself, the I am, who am I? What am I good at? Remembering who you are and remembering all those moments that work for you as opposed to the ones that didn't work for you, because obviously that is the mind, wanting to keep you safe by remembering all the stuff that, didn't go so
Well,
well.
we've been trained, haven't we, to give away our
I'm
responsibility.
just going to
You
have
know,
a
yeah,
reshuffle
move
around.
from the sunshine. But I think from schools, you go to school and you have to put your hand up to go to the toilet, or and then you just go through the whole system of go, I don't know whether it's a doctor or the dentist or the bank manager, anything in a suit or anything in a white coat with a stethoscope. We think, oh, I'm not very well, I'll go to the doctor or I'll go to the dentist. We don't take responsibility for ourselves. We don't look after ourselves and try and nip it in the bud. We just assume go to the doctor, go to the eye doctor, go to whatever it is. And yeah, it's a really valid point that we have to take responsibility for ourselves. I'm not saying don't go to a doctor. There are times that you need to, or the dentist. And last week I've been to the eye, the tooth, and yeah, and the hospital for, so there is a reason and a need for them. But I think we have to really start looking into why we're doing this and just handing out our responsibility or responsibility for ourselves to other people and start looking within. And as you said, it's I am, who am I, what am I? And it's really important for people to understand if you are going to go down this route to deeply understand what you are, and you're not a birth certificate, you're not a straw person, you're not a straw man. That's vital. And once you get that, it's like, oh my God, I didn't know that. And that just leads you down this path, doesn't it, of so
Totally.
much that we have been lied to and we've been tricked. And
Mm,
that's why we're in a bit of a pickle, especially now with what's going on. They're just, well, the world topsy-turvy, but there's so much information. Oh, we're
mm.
overwhelmed. And when you made a point, Tosh, of just sitting in stillness and allowing yourself to meditate and just allow thoughts to come in instead of do all this other stuff that we're blocked monkeys, chattering monkeys.
Yeah, and it,
Totally.
and it's easy, I said people go, oh, I can't meditate. Meditation can be you just leaving your phone at home if you choose to do that and just going for a walk with the dog,
Yes,
being
totally.
aware of the
Doing the
countryside,
gardening, yeah, going at anything,
going
and
for a
yeah,
swim and just noticing how your body moves as you go for a swim. It could be doing a mindfulness guided meditation, so a body meditation or a breathing, connecting with your breath and your belly breath.
mm,
And it's, the amount of people I used to work with cancer patients, and we used to talk about belly breathing to settle the fears and the worries, and, and to be able to let the body know that actually it's safe for me to breathe into my belly, and then that obviously triggers the body's parasympathetic response, the natural relaxation response. And you would have, and people would go, I can't breathe into my belly. And actually, and it's the baby breath, belly breath that we start life breathing into our bellies. If you see babies, like I love
yeah,
little
yeah,
babies and they go up and down, we've forgotten how to do that because we breathe into the top third of our chest or lungs because we've been so
yeah,
stressed and everything's so
yeah.
fast. So actually, that's so yeah,
It's
that's
it's I use that as an analogy, like if you think of a dog, because a dog doesn't last for long. As my bless her, my dog recently passed. She was about 14 years old. But you think how dogs, when they breathe and they're panting, whereas tortoises, I know they're not mammals, but I always, or maybe elephants or other animals that would breathe more slowly, they last longer, they live longer. So it's
yeah.
a really valid point. And you're linking that to what we're talking about trusts here, but it's trusting yourself and then, you know,
I
putting it
thought
into
you were going
paper.
to tell me how you can tell when tortoises are breathing if they're feeling stressed.
Or they turn upside down.
But they, you don't.
Yeah, that's well, and I just think trusts are an extension of us. So they're just really where we're allowing ourselves to put into some documentation what we want to
Yeah.
happen when we aren't here, and all of our sweat equity that we've used in our life.
And we've already been taxed upon.
We've been taxed upon already, and we've paid, and is going to be passed down to our children and our children's children, and or even to community. For me, my trust goes to a community,
Yeah,
and not. I don't want it to go back into the state or anything like that. So it you can choose it to go into community,
where
and
you
as that
want.
community grows, that's the development that you're hoping that is going to move forward. And they've made it so complex, and it can be complex. Language, the equity side, the how things are laid out. But actually, the hardest thing with all of this is that actually you will own nothing and be happy because really, truly, you don't own anything. You're the keeper of your vehicle, you're the proprietor of your property, and actually, you don't own any of it. And if we really saw that in a big way, then it's much easier to develop trust because you will have trustees that, in a way, manage what you have got. So as you get older, instead of being left on your own, at 90 with nobody around to help you. If you've got trustees, that is their role to, you trusted them enough to help look after you.
Mm.
You've got somebody through the whole of your life to support you until you leave this earthly plane. and it then gets transferred on to the family or
And there
it
are also documents as well if they don't last,
yes.
you outlive your trustees, and obviously there,
Yeah, and
processes.
everything needs to follow on, but
Mm,
we have to do it now to have those younger people
mm,
being able to follow that and understand it. So trustees are not just people that you pay like solicitors.
mm.
They're people that you trust in your family route or friends or community or and and that's I think is so important. And we've just had a young, rather nice looking electrician round to look to do something in the house here, and wide awake and young,
And
and
they've got
just
less years actually being conditioned by a system. So they get it really, really easily, and it lands for them. And it's a really interesting thing with a sort of, early mid 20s, and even teenagers as well.
Yeah, that
People
yeah,
are just like, how very dare they, because they
yes.
haven't been in the system for as long as,
yeah, and
not
we want
not that
to
we're long toothed and jaded or anything, but
that, yeah, but we are that bit where we've seen both
We
sides.
have, we have. I was talking to some young people, my family, my kids, the other week, and we're talking about whether you're Gen X or a Gen Z or a,
yeah, there's a bit
all
of a
the,
competition going
yeah,
on, isn't there?
yeah,
By the
all these things. And my son-in-law was working on a website for me, and he had to keep sending me things that you're going to get another email for a password, another email for a password. I thought, oh my God. I said, how do you do this? How do you actually put up with all these passwords and numbers and da-da? He said, well, I don't know any different. And I thought that says that, oh, he doesn't know any different because he's grown up, or he's just on the edge, 25, just on the edge of, I did a little bit of a period without these damn things. But the next generation, whatever they are, that's all they've known.
But interestingly, we were parking, and I had to download another parking app. And I was like, actually, I'm not going to download a parking app. We're just going to pay now. And my daughter, who's 25, she said, I'm so fed up with, she's over from Vancouver. And she was like, I'm so fed up with all these apps on my phone.
Apps.
I'm just done with apps. I'm done with it. I don't want to see another app. I like, my phone is full of hundreds of apps. And so
There's a
I feel
turn, there's a turning point.
organically,
Mm,
yeah, there's only so much as, the human beings. And I think it was Dr. Zach Brush who was talking about our bodies, and our bodies know, and
mm,
this incredible, bit of like magic that we all walk around in this vehicle in life knows how to do stuff. And we've sort of again not trusted our bodies, not trusted
yeah,
ourselves. So actually let our bodies do all the stuff, to let the bodies do the healing that it needs to do. And I know there's obviously, having worked with cancer patients, that, there is obviously a different side, a different perspective, of course, and obviously there's sort of influence as well. But it's a very interesting
yeah.
thing. I think that.
With the work that you're doing then with Delphi Law, and I know there's other people out there doing it, and which is great. I think the more of us are doing it, like you say,
Mm,
communities, autonomous groups setting up these
mm.
associations, teaching people and bringing them in to safeguard their assets. But how safe is it in the world in which we live at the moment? So if somebody has set it up through a private institution or association, and then they had to call it in, or do you call it in? Let's say somebody set up a trust, they've passed, so the trust has then automatically gone on to the next benefactor. How safe is that before you're going to get one of those knocks on the door from whoever saying, hello, 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 give us some money? Is it safe?
Yeah.
Well, we've never had anything taken on from that, but we are in early doors, Karen, in
I
terms of, hundreds of people having the trust or thousands of them. But we
It's the
have to,
education, isn't it? It is that when people have the knowledge, they can make choices.
yeah. And it comes down to you knowing who you are at that
Mm.
door. When you are a trustee in for a private natural trust, you would sign an NDA. You are not speaking to anybody. So as long as you stand in that NDA, there is nothing that they can do. It's just not possible. And
Frankly,
most,
I think they got most people, and they're chasing people who are not paying council tax at the moment, which is increasing obviously in bills and service bills and everything. There's a lot of other stuff. So that's yeah,
yeah, so
something
one
we
of,
don't do is
yeah, we
we're not
prefer to have clean hands
yeah.
for trusts,
Mm,
because if you're going to put it in trust just because you're fighting council, and we totally get why you'd be fighting it.
mm, yeah.
We totally get. But we also know that you're better putting your trust in clean hands with nothing
It's
like that as your
It's
background.
being clever about, well, not that it's not clever to fight, but it's a kind of way to yourself. It's like who you have to sleep, go to, you put your head on the pillow at the end of the night, how, what is your quality of sleep? What is your quality of life if you're in this fight energy? So that's also something I would suggest is, you know, you know, the powers that be are bringing us into this divisive fight energy all the time. And that's a really low level energy on which to operate. So we do it quietly. We ensure all the I's are dotted and the
Yeah.
T's are crossed or whatever in lowercase, obviously not in capitals. And yeah, and I think that's yeah, the education is really important, but you might want to sort of touch on the settler and the
Yeah,
responsibility of the settler, which
because
is
if everybody knows their responsibilities
Mhm.
and what they do, what they don't do, then the trust can't be bust.
Yeah.
I
If
like that.
somebody doesn't adhere to those, then the trust can be bust. And
Mm.
what tends to be challenged is, let me just give you a very small, quick example, is somebody marries in, there's a trust in place. One of the daughters marries a guy, I'm going to take it that way round. They don't get on, they get divorced, but she has in her trust a large piece of land that has been left for her. He wants part of that because of the divorce settlement. In a trust, that can never happen because that beneficiary is only the daughter. Now, they cannot go to a solicitor or magistrate's court. They have to go to the chancery to change that. Going to the chancery already puts on a figure beyond eye-watering amounts for barristers. There's only a few of them that are in the chancery for it. They could take it into the family court, but it's not going to be, there's a trust in place. So 9 times out of 10, what happens is they just go, there's a trust. We're not touching any of that. And it's left aside. So the challenges are less about IHT and taxation, but more about people in the family that want to fight each other. I think the simplest thing that I would say is that if the bond is made as soon as we're born and we're registered in the Sescovy trust that we supposedly have because we're dead, then the only time they know we're dead is when we do probate. And that's the provable time, which means they can cash in their bond.
They've got a birth
They've
certificate
got a birth
waving
certificate
around.
and they can say they're dead now, we'll have the 2 billion or whatever's in that bond. Done right in a trust, we put a lien in the trust that says you need to pay us first before we'll tell you that we're dead. So if you want to pay us, I don't know, 1 million, we'll give you the death certificate and then you can go and claim your bond. But you put a lien inside that so that it makes them have to pay you for actually saying that you're dead.
So when you said that though, when you're getting a death certificate, where's it coming from?
Well, everybody will get a death certificate from when they
So
die.
yeah, so isn't that sufficient then when you're talking about the Sesquivit? Because this is getting complicated for my little mind.
Yeah.
So when you're saying you've had to register the death, so then you've gone back into their system. That's what I think
Yeah,
I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
exactly.
Yeah,
So actually it's the no registration. It's
Mm.
the deregistering. Sorry, my fault for
Mm.
not saying that clearly enough. It's
right.
the deregistration, and that probate then carries down. And there's a lien in there. So you say, well, if you want it, you have to pay up this first.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've been looking at a lot. So you actually break the system at that point in a way. Because if there's 10 of you doing it, it's not going to work, they'll just ignore that. If there's 10,000 of you doing it, it may cause a bit more of a
Yeah.
rumpus. If there's 10 million, you may
Things have got
shut
to
down
change.
that
And
Yeah.
whole, that.
that's what the sort of upper, the upper echelons, if you like, have known about for so long. And the sort of us minions have all been bless our
Yes.
hearts, fueling that, loading coal onto those
Yeah.
trucks with that steam train.
And they're all on the land going, hello,
Ooh.
how are you? See you
and
later.
Cheerio.
I'll just go in
Yeah.
my pool.
And actually, what
Yeah.
we have to do is instead of like drop it, working and, the sweat equity and fueling this train with coal, we got to trust that actually we can step off that, and it's okay to step off it, but again, it just comes back to that self-knowledge and that knowing of who you are and
That's vital. I think to know thyself
yeah.
is fundamental to make this work, because once you do know yourself and you're not just this physical person, you are a spiritual being with consciousness, then it gives you the power and the strength and the knowledge, the wisdom, all those lovely things to be able to take this through. And I also love the fact that you said you want clean hands. So people that just think, oh, I don't want to pay council tax, or I want to get out of this, that, or the other, I don't want to pay these parking fines. Okay, we might disagree with them, but you have to choose your battles. You have to choose your battles, to take this further and to make it work. And you've also just said that the powers that be, or the very, very wealthy, they've all got private trusts, haven't they? The royalty and CEOs and goodness knows whatever, they've got private trusts, and we've not been told about them.
Well,
So,
it's quite interesting, isn't it? We think the NHS Trust, the National Health
Health
Service
trust.
Trust, and is not a conventional statutory trust.
I
Is
didn't
a
know that.
private
Mm,
trust
I didn't even know that.
within everything, and every department within it is a trust within each department.
Right.
So
Wow.
the minute you are born, the minute you certificate
Or
yourself,
your mum
or your mum certificates,
informs on you as the
yeah,
informant, which
yeah.
is a bit of a shocker.
Well, and
Hmm.
in the death certificate as well, interestingly, is the informant of the death certificate,
Yeah.
which
And
is
yeah,
also, and you're like, why would you be in the informant of a death certificate
yeah,
unless it was going to cash in for
Yeah,
something?
yeah, for sure.
So, it's all been there in plain sight, but without us really
knowing.
understanding it. And
And
the
and also it's been spoken about as being up there and oh, it's only something everybody else does. So we've had this kind of, this sort of whole mind, what's the word I'm looking for? They're sort of, being put in the
Indoctrination, no?
indoctrination that
Mm.
actually it's not for us. So who are we to question?
Yeah.
Again, part of that sort of, chipping away at, who are you? And all of us
Well,
have.
we're just taught otherwise, aren't we? We're taught,
Yeah.
as I was saying, when you go to school, you have to put your hand up for the toilet, and then you go through the whole system, and then you get a loan if you want to go to university. So you're indebted to the system. You're enslaved through your
Mm.
whole life. And at the end, when you die, you give another 40% on stuff you've been being taxed on throughout your life. It's
Exactly, and very much in the trust triangle, as we call
yeah,
it, you have the settler at the top, and
yeah,
then on the left you have the trustee, and on the right you have the beneficiary.
Beneficiary
If you look at accounting, the left-hand side is debit, the right-hand side is
credit.
credit, and that's where it came from. So you're always, as the trustee, in debit. So, if you're going to be the settler, you want to be the settler and the beneficiary.
yeah,
And actually, that's what we want to be in all of our worlds. But
yes,
we can also be stewards of other people's worlds
Mm.
to help them be beneficiaries. And that's the key for me, has always been the key. To help ourselves means we have to help
Help
each
others.
others.
Yeah.
And we have to be there for each other, be trusted for each other, and not be running off with them. The first question I ask is, but you could run off with my money
Mm.
or my asset. And you go, yes, but it's trust.
yeah.
We have to know ourselves to know that if we did that, we wouldn't need the death penalty, which we were discussing a little bit earlier. But if we wouldn't need it because we would know in the sight of the creator we would not be who we truly are.
Yeah.
And his spirit, hers, its spiritual gift to us living on this planet was the gift that we were given to be. It was our present. And therefore, if we run off with it, we
Yeah.
have defeated everything.
Yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
got to start again. And we'd know we'd be back starting from the
Yeah.
bottom again, doing the whole thing. And so we wouldn't need to have the rules and etiquette because we don't need them. Unfortunately, life,
Yeah.
as we know, and the pattern of life and the lower frequency has allowed that to happen. And, I get excited about being a trustee. I watch my settlers get what they need, get be beneficiaries of it, do good things with what they've got, do good things with their properties, with the people in them.
And that's something that we do with Delphi Law. We are trustees, so in this world where it is, I keep the word of the day is division, but if people don't have trustees, Delphi Law is also can also be a trustee as well. So if it was somebody you wanted out of the family or a private association, that's also a
Yeah.
possibility. And
And we want to grow that. We want to
Yeah.
train
we want
trustees.
to, yeah.
We want to train people's kids how to
Yeah.
be trustees
Pass it
as a
on.
normal everyday job,
Part of the
but for
school
a part of the
curriculum.
school curriculum, but part of that community curriculum. So we would like to go into community physically at some point,
Yeah.
over the next few years, because that's where we think we have to start it from. Um, and in that, we want to be able to teach the trustees, the kids, to know what that means, to look
Mm.
after somebody's bank account or to look after somebody's chickens or to, well,
Yeah.
you're trustee for the 50 chickens, and how many eggs do you get and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And who's
Yeah.
benefiting? The eggs go to these people. It doesn't have to be money, it can be anything.
No.
But
Any
it's really
assets.
important from a education because, as we know, the only way we learn is through education,
Yeah.
Mm.
through
Teaching.
knowing ourselves, through
And
going back
that's,
to knowing
yeah, and I
ourselves.
think that's a really, well, that is the sort of the foundational part of Delphi Law is the education part. And then people feel empowered enough to make choices which are good for them and good for legacy, contributing to something, the greater good, if you like, moving
Yeah.
forward as well, their family. And I think the more people that can take their power back, um, that's where change happens.
It
Yeah.
spreads. I think also you two lovely ladies have come together with your life experience in every aspect of life through business and commerce and being an employee and parenting and all that. But also you've got access to consultants that have been in that business for a long, it trust, who I've met myself and they've been like trust advisors. Is that what titles
Yeah.
made?
Yeah,
For
Yeah.
writers,
yeah,
advisors,
for like 30 years.
IFAs as well. Yeah,
Mm.
mixture of people in
Statutory.
their family in planning, financial
Yes.
planning.
Yeah. Which is great because I think that's a real bonus, isn't it? Because you can always call on somebody for advice if like myself comes
Definitely.
along and you say, well, I'll refer it to somebody who's an expert in that field. They've spent their life doing that.
And
Yeah,
I think that's something that was something that was really key for Ali and I kind of coming together and creating Delphi Law was the fact that every day is a school day for all of us.
Yes.
And actually we don't have the answers, but back in the day with the LORE, communities gathered underneath an oak tree, for example, and they
Yeah.
found remedy and they asked, and there were, somebody had wisdom on one subject, somebody had wisdom on another, and it's really going back to that as well. So we really try to walk our talk, if you
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it's certainly for us that's the authenticity and integrity of the service that we're providing or the education that we're providing as well.
and I think just to add to that, the Delphi side is the divine feminine.
Mm.
Women now have as much assets as men. Women now have found much more of their place in this world where it was so patriarchal before. We are definitely changing, but for us, it's about bringing balance within the divine masculine and the divine feminine. A lot of our consultants are men.
Mm.
So we bring in all that understanding in that logic problem solving. And then we've got then us in the female bringing in the empathy, the understanding, the can this work, being able to find that remedy and communicating it properly.
Yeah, and holding a space which is nourishing, it's educational, it's empowering, it's growth, and it's yeah, and it's without judgment. We're not fighting men, we're not
No,
judging. It's just we're all finding this path where we can all walk together forwards.
being in balance, basically, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
I,
absolutely.
I did a chat the other day with two ladies. I don't know if you've seen it, called Marianne and Marilou, I think. Can't quite remember. They both begin with M's. And it was about asset stripping. I don't know if I've had this conversation with you girls before, but about asset stripping. And one of the ladies has had 21 of her properties taken from her, and the other has had two. And I'm bringing this up partly because I see the benefit of a trust will protect this from happening. But
Yeah,
also, and it's worth you watching this video. It's on Wise Women Weekdays if anybody wants to see it. It's a very recent video that I've done, and it is absolutely shocking because they're educated women and they've had assets worth a lot of money, and it's through fraudulent activity basically. One of the ladies, she was going through a divorce, and she her husband, late husband, now he's a late husband, he signed over power of attorney for all the assets and trying to get the wife out of owning it. You know, he didn't want to give her anything. But then he ended up being dead. One of we don't know how, but they are looking into murder because of it. And through that, she has lost all her properties. They're fighting to get it back, but we're talking about, as I say, a lot of money. She was a high flyer. She was into fashion, and she had her own business. So she was very much in creating this. And then the other lady, the same sort of thing, similar sort of thing happened. And she's saying that anybody can go onto the land register and look to see who owns what. And
Mm.
apparently women are being targeted.
targeted, yeah.
Yeah, especially if so you go on the land registry and they say, oh, there's a woman on her own and they've got a desirable house. Apparently, listed buildings are key at the moment. And it was really, really shocking. And I didn't think to talk to them because it was too late for them, although they're fighting it, and I'm pretty sure they get things back. But if your assets were in trusts, it's a lot harder for people to go hunting on there and identity theft and asset strip.
100%. And there's
Well,
particularly
title
yeah.
changes, doesn't it? First of all, title changes on land registry to the trustees. So the trustees own the title, not the property.
Right.
So, and therefore change, you don't see the settler's name
That's a
anymore.
firewall.
So that's what a
Protection.
firewall
Yeah.
for that way from one protection with that as well. I mean, land registry really is only a big database of a corporation. It has nothing to do really with the
No.
government, but it's a way of knowing what land is registered or not. So that's the
Yeah.
one part that would definitely protect with it
Mm,
as well.
mm.
So how can people get hold of you, and what are you doing to get this information out there?
So we have got a lovely website, which is a free membership website. So you have to put your email in and we won't bombard you. That's not our business to do that, or busyness. We're far too busy elsewhere. So putting your email into the website, into the free membership. And then when the email comes up, we'll send you the next information for the day's training. We've got some training coming up, which is a day's training, which is just a really sort of, in the coaching world, you might kind of call it a discovery day. It's finding out more information, giving, putting all the choices on the table. So actually, where am I going with this? And that's on Sunday, the 20th of September, and it's a location in West Sussex, but we'll send you a flyer. And
And these are ongoing. You're going to be doing these regularly.
100%, yeah. I mean, this is kind of, we're not other than beautiful, lovely, gorgeous, gorgeous people like yourself that are kind of interviewing us and giving us the opportunity to talk about our work. We're not doing social media, and it's
No,
really
no.
word of mouth. And I think that's really lovely as well because that comes from trust, and
Yeah.
again, it's about community, recommending people. Who did I meet at the local pub? Why are all the local pubs disappearing? Because they're places where people used to come and chew the fat and just
Yeah.
kind of just, what
Where business was
was
done.
business was done,
Mm.
and lovely ale houses are sort of going left, right, and center. So it really is about sort of recommendation as well. And we have an offer actually on this day. So if you have a partner who may be interested or curious, um, you can both log on, and if you say you're with that person, you can buy a half price
Okay.
ticket if you're
And
coming
that's on your
to do that.
website, which again is delphilore.live, DELPHILORE.live.
Life.
Life,
Life.
Life.
Life, life,
Life, Life, live.
Yeah,
life.
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Sorry. Anything else you want to say, ladies, before we wind up? Because we've been going for an hour probably. I know we could talk easy for another hour, and you're welcome to come back
No,
and talk about anything
it's
else.
lovely.
Yes.
Lovely to
Yeah, no,
meet you and talk to you.
yeah, it's great. I would just say that if you want to just be in touch with us because you just want to talk to us, send us that
Mm.
email as well. Just put on that you want just a conversation. We do offer, free. We talk to anybody that wants to have a little bit of information, and then uh, our intention is to just build on those trainings. So we've got lots of little training things going on. So this is sort of a first one with a bigger group, give people a feel of what's going on.
Mm.
And then from that, if it's something that people think, I want to go further,
Mm.
or I want to become a trustee, or then there's training, or I need a trust for my properties, or I want a private association for me running business, then that's what we would look at too.
Brilliant. Well done, girls. I think it's amazing what you're doing. I love what you're doing, and I wish you all the best. And so, those of you that have been watching this, you've been watching me, Karen Dodd, on Wise Women Weekdays, and I've been joined by Tosh and Ali of DelphiLaw.life. And I'll see you next time. So yeah, and also like, subscribe, and all that thing. Comment if you've got any questions. We do. I certainly look at them, and I can relay them to the girls. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next
Much.
time.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thanks.
Karen.
Bye.
You're
Bye.
welcome.